The second special session kicks off today. We'll take a look at what's on the agenda. And half of Americans are vaccinated against COVID. But what about the Brazos County? The second special session for the Texas legislature starts today. While the Senate had a quorum, the House didn't, which left the future up in the air. The House closed its doors early after failing to meet the 100-person requirement. The Senate proposed a resolution that would speed up the process of passing legislation. There will be 17 items on the agenda, including federal COVID relief spending, legislation for public K-12 education, modifying the filing periods and election dates, reforming laws about radioactive waste, and legislation on employment. And tax-free weekend just ended, and with the surge of COVID cases, it has some wondering if the large shopping holiday will cause a spike in cases. The Brazos County Health District says the local positivity rate is about 8%. Health experts say the Delta variant is highly transmissible. These new cases could very well be the Delta variant.
With the tax-free weekend, activities going on and, stores likely to be more crowded, I definitely think there's a high risk for there to be, more cases and possibly contribute to the current surge that's going on.
Experts believe we're seeing a surge and that we'll continue to see it for the next 3 weeks. Meanwhile, half of Americans are now fully vaccinated. The CDC says about 464,000 people a day are getting a shot. Here in the Brazos County, 45% of people are fully vaccinated. Across the state, 15.3 million Texans have had one dose of a COVID-19 shot. Over 12.8 million people are fully vaccinated, which means 53% of all Texans are fully vaccinated. All right, let's get a check on your Monday forecast with meteorologist Josh Johns. Josh, it's already Monday.
Yeah, it is setting up to be a toasty Monday. In fact, we got partly cloudy skies right now on the Extraco, Eagle Eye, and Bryan College Station, and already those temperatures starting to really ratchet up there. Currently sitting at 83 degrees, but it feels like 94 thanks to a really humid dew point of 78. That dew point going to make things toasty and make things feel even hotter as we go through the day. Some areas already feeling like the triple digits. Navasota, you feel like temperatures at 101, 100 in Brenham, same in Franklin. Right now feels like the mid-90s across Bryan College Station. And you look at the radar, you can see these little partly cloudy skies moving through. No showers to speak of. I'm not going to rule out a shower today, but by and large, we're going to see things fairly dry as we continue through the rest of the day. Bigger story is going to be the heat. We're now under a heat advisory that goes through around 8 o'clock tonight. Does include all of the Brazos Valley because we are expecting those feel-like temperatures to climb up towards 105 to 110 later on this afternoon. Again, they're currently sitting at about 100. Add about 5 to 10 onto that, and that's what we'll feel like later on this afternoon. Future Track shows you we should stay pretty dry today. Some high clouds possible. Otherwise, we'll call it partly cloudy. Then we go into the overnight hours. Things will dry out. Tomorrow, there will be a little bit more moisture in place, so it's not going to surprise me if we see a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, mainly over the eastern half of the Brazos Valley and towards I-45. Chance of rain generally around 20%. So not many of you will see it, but if you do get under one, at least it'll bring a little bit of a cool down on the way. And we'll keep those little small rain chances going through not only today, but into Wednesday, Thursday, even into Friday before we head into the weekend. That's when a cool front will get closer to us, and that'll up those rain chances as we head into the start of the new week with about a 20 to 30% chance on the way. Today, though, nothing but heat on the way. Mid-90s, 95, 96, 97 degrees, looking pretty common. Keep in mind the humidity is going to make it feel a lot hotter across the area. We'll call it 95 officially for a high. Same on Tuesday, 96 on Wednesday. We continue through the rest of that 10-day forecast. We're talking mid-90s holding on through the rest of the week on into the weekend. Again, small rain chances are working in for the weekend. Otherwise, the heat just continues to roll on.
The United Nations calls its brand new report on climate change a, quote, code red for humanity. According to the report, the Earth's climate is getting so hot that in about a decade, temperatures will blow past a level of warming that world leaders are trying to prevent. One co-author of the report says no area is safe. Under different scenarios outlined in the report, the world will cross the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming mark in the next decade. Unlike previous assessments, the report leaves no doubt that humans have caused the climate crisis. The 3,000-page report comes from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and was compiled by more than 200 scientists. U.S. senators pushed a $1 trillion infrastructure package a step closer to a final vote. The bipartisan bill promises that billions of dollars will be used to upgrade roads, bridges, water pipes, and other public works systems. By Sunday night, the Senate voted to end debate on the package. Today, there will be floor speeches on the deal, and by Tuesday, a final Senate vote is expected. Then the Senate shifts to a budget reconciliation package. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the House won't take up the measure until the reconciliation package is done.
To build not only the physical infrastructure, but the personal infrastructure.
The future of the bill is still partially unknown. The House won't be back in session until September. For the first time since March 2020, vaccinated U.S. citizens can cross the border to visit Canada. Travelers must be fully vaccinated and test negative for COVID-19 within 3 days before crossing the border. The same does not apply to Canadians visiting the U.S. The U.S. extended its closure to Canadians making non-essential trips until at least August 21st, which also applies to the Mexican border.
In the midst of the pandemic, the trauma unit at DHR Health in Edinburgh, Texas is bustling.
For those who thought we were over this, I've got news for you. That's not the case.
It's an all-hands-on-deck situation for the hospital, yet again.
The rest of the illness did not stop just because there's COVID. So we have all of the other emergencies, all of the other problems that can happen day to day, compounded by the fact that in some of those cases, those patients have COVID as well.
But the problem is, there aren't enough hands on deck to begin with.
We have a significant nursing shortage, not only locally, but across the country.
In 2018, the Texas Center for Nursing Workforce Studies said care facilities throughout Texas were short 25,000 nurses. It predicted the staffing deficit would worsen, and that was before the pandemic hit. It's not just here in Texas, nationally. Over the next decade, it's predicted a number of states will fall short of the registered nurses needed as the country ages.
No cavalry's coming this time around.
And at this hospital, the consequence is potentially dire.
This time around, we're having to manage that a little differently and can't accommodate quite as many patients as we did the last time. There simply aren't enough nurses.
The shortage also creates burnout on the front line.
It's really stressed the system such that nurses are exhausted.
Pressure is on administrators too, because some nurses get recruited by staffing agencies with promises of lucrative pay, reportedly as much as $8,000 a week in North Dakota.
In the long run, that doesn't work well because it removes nurses from the workplace for that period of time they take off. It also isn't sustainable, and we're seeing that this pandemic is lasting over a year now, a year and a half. You need more sustainable options than that.
DHR Health's doctors say without more help inside, everyone on the outside needs to do their part.
We have one thing we can do, each one of us as individuals. If you haven't been vaccinated, for God's sake, please get vaccinated.
New data sheds light on how ending additional federal unemployment assistance is affecting the job market.
The line has been, because of the generous unemployment benefits, that it's a major factor in labor shortages. Americans want to work.
That was President Biden back in May when his administration was under fire for additional federal unemployment assistance handed out to Americans as part of his landmark COVID relief bill. About half the states ended the additional $300 a week benefit early, saying it encouraged people to stay out of work. Now, 2 new reports debunk that theory. Payroll firm UKG found that employment in states that stopped the additional benefit grew by 2.2% from May to July, while states that kept the money flowing actually increased hourly employment even more by 4.1%. Homebase, another payroll firm, found a nearly 1% decrease in employment for states that cut the additional benefit, and the reverse, an uptick in employment for states that kept the federal supplement. Still, some political leaders who cut the extended benefits believe doing so has helped the job market.
So we're glad just this last month we added 70,000 additional private sector jobs, partially because we removed the additional unemployment payment and incentivized people to get back to work. I had 500,000 jobs open sitting there.
The White House and experts have often pointed to various reasons as to why people haven't fully gotten back to work, including childcare, low wages, and concerns surrounding a resurgence of the virus. Despite these challenges, leaders point to good news for the resurging economy.
Indicators of economic activity and employment have continued to strengthen, and real GDP this year appears to be on track to post its fastest rate of increase in decades.
The $300 a week federal supplemental benefit is set to expire for the rest of the country on September 6th.
COVID-19 devastated the tourism industry and the communities that depend on it. But Americans are traveling again and spending money in many of those areas. Tourism is a lot like waves. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's calm and subtle, but sometimes it crashes over you. Many of the towns along the shores of Lake Superior are well aware of this. Grand Marais is no different.
This North Shore area is a jewel. It's a place that we brag about here in Minnesota. It's just the high cliffs, Lake Superior, the inland lakes, the boundary waters. There's so much to see. So a lot of folks have come out to reconnect with themselves in nature, and we've been really, really busy.
Rochelle Christensen owns the Skyport Lodge with her husband. It's a bar, restaurant, boat rental, cabin rental, all-in-one summer vacation spot. Rochelle and her husband have been through it all during the pandemic.
I remember that day well, as many business owners do, when we got word from our governor that we needed to shut down and just offer to-go food primarily.
That didn't last long, as Skyport closed its doors for a few months as business ground to a halt. The U.S. lost almost $4.5 trillion in the travel industry in 2020. That resulted in the loss of almost 62 million jobs as well. But travel is rebounding in 2021. U.S. Travel Association expects spending on travel to rise almost 25% over 2020. This can be an especially big deal for rural areas that rely on tourism for their economy. Places like Hot Springs, Arkansas have seen tourism tax collections rise by nearly 150% since 2020.
Our economy is a primarily 90% tourism-based economy.
Kirsty Vick works for Visit Cook County. She knows how important tourism is for the area.
Everybody is impacted by tourism in some way, shape, or form in Cook County, and so it's become something that we're used to. Where it was something that was noticed and missed in those months that we were closed.
While Cook County was able to end 2020 with some strong numbers, Kirsty says one group that was hit particularly hard was musicians.
It's brutal, and getting through it. You know, it's starting to turn on. It's you know, we lost 2 venues up here, went out of business.
Boyd Blomberg was touring the country last year when the pandemic hit and decided to just stay put in Cook County and wait it out. Almost a year and a half later, he's still here.
Booking a European tour in the spring of 22, and then I'm going to be down south in Texas, I think, early October. So it's coming back, but it's been tough.
But the community has come together to support each other, even the musicians. Boyd received some funding from different organizations to help live stream local musicians and help them make it through. That's just the people they are up north.
That is one thing, the community, that keeps me here, is just the kindness and the camaraderie. And it is true, these businesses, business owners, the folks in the industry, like, we all get it. We all support each other and understand the climate here.
Just off the coast of Lake Superior in Grand Marais, I'm Bo Evans reporting.
If you're planning a last-minute trip with your kids before school starts, doctors say it's important to make sure you're keeping safety in mind, especially since children under the age of 12 can't get vaccinated yet. Experts suggest car trips so you're able to control your environment a little bit more. While a plane might get you there faster, your family would have to wear a mask the entire time. It would also be difficult to socially distance. Amusement parks are also risky since you would be around a lot of strangers, some of which may not be vaccinated. Instead, health experts recommend going camping or doing something else outdoors. You could also rent a house instead of a hotel. Some houses even have a pool that's private that is accessible only to the family that is renting. It's also a good idea to research where you're going. If they have a high infection rate for COVID, you may want to go somewhere else.
And it's going to be a hot day out there across the Brazos Valley. Temperatures climbing up into the mid to upper 90s this afternoon. Normally should be around 97 this time of year, so we're going to call it pretty much near normal still. That humidity is going to make it feel downright hot. 105 to 110 what it will feel like this afternoon. 95 Monday and Tuesday, 96 on Wednesday. Rest of the 10-day forecast keeps those mid-90s around. Little small rain chances Saturday and Sunday. Otherwise, the heat just looks to continue from here.
Correcting the semiconductor shortage can't be done with a short-term fix. Between high production costs and long lead times, increasing chip supply isn't as easy as building more production facilities.
And, for the last 40 years, the semiconductor industry has been known for, wild shortages and wild oversupply. You can't really build a small factory, so you got to build this mega factory.
Semiconductor fabrication plants, also known as fabs or foundries, take billions of dollars and years to construct. Designing and constructing chip parts, known as wafers, is a months-long process that includes heating silica sand to over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
TSMC has announced something in Arizona, and it's already broken ground for that. Intel is expanding in Arizona. But those announcements were just made. Factories have started building in 2021. So the production isn't really expected before 24.
But shoring up semiconductor supply will require the U.S. to diversify where it is importing chips from. That will also take some geopolitical navigating.
Now, with these few minimal fabs coming up, this will basically help U.S. to retain its worldwide production percentage, right? So the production percentage from U.S. is about 11 to 12%. With these limited new foundries, the capacity addition would just help it retain or maybe add a percentage point or so.
I don't see a competition kind of an environment where everybody sings Kumbaya. That's why if you look around, we only talk about US, Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan a little bit. India is getting into the mix. European Union is getting aggressively into the mix. I mean, pretty much everybody knows the importance of it.
It's really amazing to see that I have such an impact on people I didn't even know a couple years ago.
A Tampa teen created 2 herb gardens at a local senior living facility. Kelly called the project Gardens for Grandparents. She realized that tending to the gardens provided a lot more than just a hobby for these residents.
So gardening is a very good motor skill for the memory care residents, and it's a daily task that you have to do. So remembering that daily task and performing that motor skill is really helpful.
Kelly hopes her project inspires other teens to give back to the generations that came before them.
It's really important. They're the backbone of this country, and we have to help them every way we can.
It looks lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
This Cleveland man tends to a yard that he may know even better than his own. Since 1981, Todd has mowed his middle school teacher's lawn. She's now 98 years old and is thankful for his help.
I'd rather be here than in a retirement home. I never would be able to stay here if it wasn't for Todd and his family.
They say they're grateful for an unlikely friendship that has withstood the test of time. Swimming a mile is no small feat for a 91-year-old, but one Arizona woman took on the challenge. For her birthday, Nancy decided to swim 1 mile at her retirement center's pool, with family and loved ones cheering her on.
It gives you a high.
I don't drink, so I don't know what a real high is, but it's a high when you finish something like this.